Hello, Mr. Moore. How are you doing today?
Ayush, I think we should see other people.
Oh, just do be like that. Well,
Uh,
it has been quite a bit, so yeah,
yeah,
we've
it's been
gotten
a
our
while.
distance.
Yeah, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but for me, it's just made me relieved Ayush is gone. Um,
Okay. Well, I see how it is. When I get back, I'm not even gonna be your neighbor anymore, so calm down.
I know, I can't contain my excitement.
Okay, you know what? You could go on walks alone then.
No, it will be sad. It's been sad to be so far away for so long. But I've been good. I had a good spring break. I visited my grandparents, who they were all fully vaccinated, so that was fun. I learned that my grandpa, interesting guy. Um, there's some stuff he had said in the past that I thought were jokes, but were actually like his true life story, including that he was like a pitcher with the Brooklyn Dodgers. That was a thing that happened. Minor leagues for them, but still,
For the Dodgers.
the
Jesus.
Brooklyn Dodgers before they
Oh,
moved
what?
out west.
Okay.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah. And then I can't tell you the rest of the stories because if I did, I'd be shot. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, and then school is coming back up. I did do poorly on one test, but it's one test. What difference can it make? So we're chilling. How are you doing, Ayush?
Uh, I don't know about that one test logic, especially when tests are like 20% of our grades
It's
here.
25% of my grade. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. We'll just see how it goes.
yeah.
I mean, it's been fine. I can't even remember the last time that we recorded. I've just been so stressed. Like, I just finished off my winter term, and this is like the second week in my spring term, and there's just been so much work. Like, end of spring term, I had to write like 15,000 words or something insane like that. Uh, uh, like big for my finals, and then on top of that, I had to take like a bio final, and it was bittersweet the ending, but thank God it's finally over. I got my EMT license, so I'm like fully ready. So yes, sir. Now I can call myself Ayush Ajmani NREMT. That's the title that I get for doing this.
What's
So
the NR?
a national registry.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah. And then spring term has been pretty chill so far. I'm taking a combination of chem and bio. And the sad part is that we have tests every other week, and chem and bio fall on the same exact day. So that is painful.
that is two tests on the same day every other week.
Yeah.
College life, let's go.
And each one is 15% of my grade. So,
Sweet.
fun.
But I've seen you've been playing pool a bit in the downtime.
Oh, I've been playing quite a bit of pool. I would just like to let you guys know that I've gotten a lot better since when I started, because I played my fair share of game pigeon pool, and I would call myself a savant there. But real life pool was a lot different once I like picked up a pool stick and actually tried to play. But I've been playing quite a bit to try to get really good by the end of the term. And I think like my strengths are hitting like angled shots right now, because like I can tell angles a lot better than a lot of the people that I play with. It's just that I fuck up the angles, but I do know the angle that I need to go for. Yeah.
That started off, I was like, oh wow, he's good at pool now. But no, he still screws up the angles. He just
Hey,
knows what
okay.
he's
Sometimes
trying
like
to
I accidentally shake the like pool stick and it goes like a little bit too far. Or sometimes like I have the angle in mind and then like I look away and then like where was the angle?
Oh yeah.
So, just here and there little things. But I'm getting better. And by the end of this term, I can already tell you that I'm going to be a god at pool.
Okay. Well, the next thing I'm doing when I see you, Ayush, is playing you in pool
Yes,
and
sir.
winning.
You have that like little pool set in your basement, right?
No, that's been gone since Caleb McDonald sat on it and broke it. Well, it took us a year to get rid of it.
Okay.
But
I didn't
it's
know if
been
you still
broken.
had that. Okay.
No, yeah, that is gone now, unfortunately. But
Oh,
I know some people with pool tables. We'll just show up at their house, like we did that one
okay.
time when we wanted to bake cookies.
Yeah. Yeah. And anything interesting going on for you in terms of like fun things?
Ooh, you're. Oh wait, I thought you just put on a filter, but I just realized that was my phone is like a wind down setting to tell me I should be getting ready to sleep and not like using Snapchat. So we're now in grayscale on my screen. Um, which is it's interesting. We should be in grayscale more often. But as for interesting things, I mean, not really. I'm I'm doing the same sort of stuff I was doing in my free time 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago. So that's playing video games, watching anime, hanging out with roommates, throwing around a baseball and stuff. So no
Ooh.
like massive changes in my social experiences. No like bar games have suddenly gotten a lot better at. Um, but yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah. What's your most interesting class that you're taking this term?
Um, so that would probably have to be my German class because I'm my
Oh,
like I'm still in the same set of classes I was before.
yeah, yeah. I totally forgot. Like,
Right.
I'm just in the new set of classes.
Yeah. Currently, we're learning about humanitarian aid and kind of the disasters with that, or but like the disasters it addresses, and then the flaws with how it seeks to address those.
Mm. Well, I had that switch up of classes, and I think my most interesting class is like it's an international studies class for my international studies minor, hopefully, and it's called How to Be a Fascist. And I think the most neat part, very similar to your German class, I believe it's that it crosses over with 4 different departments.
Yeah,
So like you can take it with different departments. And the coolest thing is that it's also taught by the Italian department. So the same professor uses one day of the week where the rest of the people don't meet, but she teaches that class in full Italian. And like anytime you have to do any work, it has to be in full Italian for those kids. I think it's really cool. I think the title is a lot cooler than the actual class, but I have learned a lot of things about fascism and like what its role was, especially in like developing Italy and
but you
Germany and
you
all of those
thought the name
places.
was cooler because like you actually haven't learned how to become one yet. Is your complaint?
You know what? You can give me a crash course on how to become a fascist if you can, but I don't think there's one specific way on how to really reflect your inner fascist.
No, there's definitely a 13-step program out there. Like I've seen this before. It's like a list of like things that make you fascist.
All right, then why shouldn't Dartmouth just adopt that? Like, what's the point of the class? I should just go take that.
Well, yeah, you should, but Dartmouth doesn't make money from that.
True, we are going broke, but we could just get sponsored by the program. So it's like everyone here gets a low key sponsored by your like
By the
fascist
fascists?
mentor. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, oh, it's been a great catching up. We should talk a little bit about some recent developments in the news, like just take a steady start into this new season.
Yeah. So if we're starting national,
Mhm.
wait, actually, if we go international, one of the
Yeah, I was about to
biggest
say that's
stories that we never had an episode about this. The Suez Canal was blocked by a ship for like
yeah.
a week, and that had huge effects on trade. Um, and there weren't not only were there's the line at the Suez Canal of like ships waiting, but that had ripple effects. So there were like goods stacking up at ports ready for export, in places around the world.
Hmm.
Um, and like there are two main canals that really drive everything: the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal. And then there are certain straits in like the depending on which country you're from, it will have different names, but I'll call it the South China Sea. When people are fighting over trade routes and access to resources there, and I think that really shows that how important these like we people have been assuming for a long time that trade will be able to go freely through those roads, and things like weather or things like human error can, if they block that, or if a country intentionally does it ever, it can have huge effects. And because this was so short, most people probably didn't notice it in their everyday lives. But if it had kept going for even a couple more weeks, we really could have seen real effects.
Yeah. And like I watched a few like clips here and there and like news stories about the like whole blockage. And what I learned is that like in the time that like the blockage started, there were accumulation of over 200 ships on each side, and they were just like sitting there. And like a lot of these I mean ship owners and like captains had to make the decision either to go take the longer route going through like the tip of Africa, which would take like 10 days, or they could like place their bets on the like canal opening up within 10 days. But like at that time, no one really knew when the canal was going to open up. So there was like just indecisiveness, and hundreds of billions of dollars were actually just like paused because of it, like all throughout the globe because of it. And that just shows like how even such a small thing, you wouldn't expect the Suez Canal to have such a huge impact on global trade and like stability, but it actually very much does, especially with our reliance on it. But I think another big international story I feel like we definitely have to discuss is happening in England. Prince Philip.
Oh yes, the Prince Philip died. The memes have come true.
Yeah, there were memes that he looked more dead when he was alive than he was dead. Okay, it's something like that. Yes. But
I do believe he was reported to have been listening to some heavy metal right before his heart gave out.
I very much doubt that, but we'll just go with that. We'll just go with that. But yeah, no, looking back on Prince Philip and the Queen's marriage, it's just very, very interesting because I didn't even know how influential it was at the time when the marriage happened and when the two took power. Because after doing a little bit of more in-depth like looking into, I realized that like their marriage had a huge like impact on like, first of all, like creating an alliance between Germany and Britain at the time, like strengthening it a bit more because I believe that Prince Philip is from German royalty.
Yeah.
And
so I think he like his family married into German royalty from being Greek royalty. So
even more complicated.
Yeah.
But I think from there, I really looked into their marriage and how like at the time of their marriage, it was like a new fresh like introduction into media, because at that time media was kicking in and like you got to see this very lively couple. And Prince Philip was quite the dashing person, especially at the time. And he would constantly support the Queen in her policies and like always like voice and back up the Queen when needed. So I know like the Queen has like on multiple occasions like asserted that like she wouldn't be able to fully do her job without the support of her husband. But it's going to be interesting how the royal family like adjusts to this like really big grievance that did happen there, and like how the Queen is going to end up like reacting, and if there's going to be like any major changes in like the political stability there.
Yeah, I mean, because when that marriage started, they've been a constitutional monarchy, so the powers of the monarchs have been limited for a long time. But if you go back to when that marriage started, like the monarchs really did have a lot more actual power, and so he, along with obviously the Queen, were kind of the ones in charge of the transition to the role the monarchy has today, where they are ceremonial and they seek to be unifiers, within the UK, and also with trying to act as a source of goodwill with the UK's former colonies that are still members of the Royal Commonwealth. And I think there's a lot of arguments that they haven't done that second part as well as they could in terms of England's relationships with its colonies and their and also it'd be interesting to see in terms of unity with the whole drama that came with Prince Henry and Meghan Markle's marriage, how the royal family, what role it plays in England and in the world going forward?
I believe it's Prince Harry.
Not Henry?
I was like, I don't think it's Henry.
Well, you know why the name Henry is at the forefront of my name. You know why the name Henry is at the forefront of my mind at all times.
Yes, I know. Your dad calls everyone Henry when he does not know their name or just doesn't care to say their name properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very big tragedy, especially for individuals in Britain. Do you know if they do get a national holiday when like the prince died? Because I know for the queen, there's like a 3-day like.
There's like this whole week is a week of mourning, and so for government officials, a lot of them are on reduced schedules or off for this entire week. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, that does not extend to all private businesses being closed.
Yeah. I wonder if like the queen's like eventual passing does, because I know the queen like when once like the head figure does end up passing away, that's like a really big grievance in the country. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like now reducing our scope down a little bit to more national news. I think it's been very, very politically charged, especially over the past few days. We've seen a few shootings. Do you want to take the lead on this, Donovan?
Are you referring to the police shootings? Or?
Yeah. There were two, I believe. Well, I mean, there was a mass shooting and then a police shooting, and then there was also that lieutenant that got pulled over and abused by the police.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, this is not obviously a current event in some ways, just because it's an ongoing effect. This unequal treatment within the justice system, unequal economic realities, and then the fact that America has a unique problem with the level of freely available firearms, really couples to create this cycle of mass shootings, of murders, and then also of the police, who are in theory the ones supposed to, be preventing those and other crimes, then going on and inflicting, in fact, additional violence upon people.
Yeah, starting off with like the more, I guess, I mean, all are equally sad, but starting off with something that we've kind of been more normalized to at this point is that there was another school shooting that happened in Nashville, I believe. And one kid was injured and one kid died from the event. And it's just really, really sad because we've just had so many mass shootings in schools. And you would think that like we would do something about it, but like there hasn't been like comprehensive policy. Like on one side, they've been saying to arm teachers, on the other, it's been gun control, but it's been like super like polarized. So there's never been one cohesive response. So like the lack of cohesiveness has eventually just left no response whatsoever when it comes to these areas. So like it's just become the norm at this point.
Yeah. I don't think arming teachers would work very well for a few reasons. One, you'd have to actually train teachers to use firearm. Two, I don't think that's a useful use of teachers' time training them to use the firearm. And three, like bringing more firearms into a school will make it so that kids have more access to firearms as well.
And it's obviously important to also consider the other side of the debate, never just only voicing our concerns about the other. Because background checks like background checks and gun control, there's always loopholes in place. There's always ways to avoid it. But each side does technically have their merit. While Mr. Moore and I definitely do have our opinions on the matter, we'll try to stay away from it, not discuss it too much. But I think one of the other big stories in regards to the shootings that have taken place was in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah. Well, it was outside of Minneapolis, but
outside of Minneapolis, like very close to where the George Floyd situation took place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. That was so an individual was pulled over. It was a new car. He had just gotten from his parents. So he called his parents to try to talk to them. They're gonna get the insurance information. The police then told him to like put the phone down. He did that. They then realized that there was an outstanding arrest warrant for this individual. Uh, the police didn't know at the time what that warrant was for because apparently it doesn't show up in their system, but they knew they had that warrant. Um, I and Yeah, so then when they inform him that he's about to be arrested because of this outstanding warrant, he he had been complying, like going along with it before, and then when they inform him he's about to be arrested because of the warrant, he tries to jump back into the car. They try to restrain him, and then one of the officers grabs out their firearm. It's clearly a firearm. Yells 3 times, "Taser, taser, taser," and then opens fire and then shrieks, realizing that they had used their weapon. Um, I don't know how that happens, how someone uses a firearm thinking it's a taser in their hand. But that seems to be what happened in this case, which is, I mean, tragic. I don't know what repercussions there will be for that officer, but the individual, um, they I know some people like on the internet will say, well, they were resisting arrest or trying to flee. Uh, I mean, and yeah, that's true, and that's why the use of a taser would make sense. But I mean, clearly that was not what was supposed to happen and should have happened in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, especially because it was so close to the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis. I
Yeah,
think that's why people are grieving even more because if you look to what is happening in the area, BLM protests have like re-sparked. There's been a lot more violence once again, and just like trying to just demand for change once again. Because no matter the changes that happened from the past, there still hasn't been enough. And like, I understand that the officer like meant to like it wasn't necessarily like he was trying to hurt the individual like in the other cases, but like you also have to realize that you made the mistake in this situation by not recognizing that that's not a taser. More importantly, I did a little bit of looking into, but a lot of the times when the officers were just like, when the officers were getting mad at him for going back in the car, most of the times he was just trying to reach his phone to tell his parents that he was being arrested or things like that. He wasn't necessarily trying to escape as much. He just wanted to get in contact with his family because he was supposed to go and see his brother's new house. And that's why he was driving with his girlfriend. So
yeah,
it's just very tragic miscommunication, a lack of actions that were taken properly. But yeah, it was still like very very awful. Yeah, I'm not really sure how the repercussions and how the court case is going to go down there, but yeah.
yeah.
And then I think the final story that we should really touch into was, I can't really remember the location, but it happened, but it was a lieutenant who was pulled over, I believe, at a gas station and by the police, and they asked him to keep getting out of the car and he had his hands up, and they eventually pepper sprayed him, like were threatening to shoot him. They like buckled his knees, lied and everything. And this is like a person who's a lieutenant, like he has no,
In the military.
yeah, in the military, he has no harm to his country. He's in his uniform as well. Like, come on, like you could have showed the person more dignity instead of having to like really like mistreat them. Because if you go back and watch the video of the incident, like the police officers are being unnecessarily aggressive. They pull out the firearm within like seconds. And yeah, you were saying?
I mean, it was just clearly race motivated.
Yeah, 100%. Like you would be a lot nicer to individuals, especially in the military, because they're sacrificing themselves for this country. But like it was just horrible watching that incident take place. Thank God he wasn't like severely injured from the situation, but like the treatment there were like huge repercussions. The officers already got fired for that, but there were like comments that they made on the side, which was like "you're lucky" and stuff like that, right? And it's
Yeah.
just it was just awful what the police officers did to that individual. So yeah.
Going more locally, this is from a little bit back. I don't think we talked about it. It's on the same topic. So in
Mhm.
2017, there were some protests in St. Louis after a white police officer who had killed a black individual was acquitted in a murder trial. And as part of those protests, the police in St. Louis were extremely aggressive, and they beat up and brutalized many people, including a black undercover police officer who had been stationed within the crowd to like kind of report if anyone in the crowd had started getting violent, and it was the police officers who got violent first. And so those officers who beat up their fellow officer, um, people, and part of the investigation, they went through their phones and they basically saw that they had been talking in advance about how they were looking forward to beating up people. They saw that after they realized they had beat the person they had been attacking was a police officer. They said, "Dang, it sucks that he was a police officer," but they did not care about the fact that like they had beat someone up in general. And they managed to get one of them pled guilty and cooperated, and tried to like that, yeah, but then the others, they were able to convince a jury. It was a The juries didn't render a not guilty verdict. They couldn't come to a conclusion. They were a hung jury. The jury consisted of 11 white people and one black individual, which is a clear racial imbalance compared to the region that they should have been selected from. And yeah, so the ones that did not plead guilty, despite having these incriminating texts, were now, they're not going to be retried now that there was a hung jury.
That's awful. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just all these like crimes, especially with shootings and police brutality, to show that there needs to be change in this country for sure.
yeah, and
And
at least in St. Louis at the local level, there was a big push in the recent elections, and there's a new mayor, the first female black mayor. There's a new, more progressive, uh, city board. Like kind of lesser related in some people's mind, but there's also new focus on the school board. So yeah, I would say at the local level in St. Louis, changes are happening. And once again, that verdict was a federal verdict, so outside of St. Louis's hand at that point.
yeah, yeah, that's good to know. I don't really know too much about New Hampshire politics. I really don't care too much for it, not gonna lie. I am more involved in St. Louis stuff than New Hampshire. I'm just here if it's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I think we can kind of like reflect back on some of the stuff we talked about. And I do want to touch in on one last thing, and this is just something that I read about today, but I got my first dose of my vaccine like last week. I don't know if you've gotten your vaccine.
I
Mr.
got
Moore.
the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Oh, that is wonderful. That is exactly what we were going to be talking about. Well, I was offered the Johnson & Johnson one a few days before the Moderna one that I got. And I was able to get it because I do research at like a Veterans Affairs hospital, and they just have a bunch of extra vaccines that they like are opening up to veterans and like people who work there and stuff like that. So I was able to get my hands on a vaccine, which was very nice. So I need to go back for my second shot later in May. But I think the biggest thing that I really read about today was the Johnson & Johnson one being suspended by the FDA for further use at the moment because of the increased chance for severe blood clots. Do you know a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's quite rare. It's
Yeah.
Currently their estimate is that 1 in a million people get these blood clots. And then if doctors, recognize it, it's not necessarily like easily treatable, but it's not like hugely fatal if doctors treat it right. And so, but they're suspending it out of abundant caution in case, there are more cases out there that haven't been reported yet, and the numbers are actually higher. And like a 1 in a million chance is obviously low. In many cases, you could argue it's worth the risk compared to what the catching the virus might be able to do to you. But since we do currently have other vaccines available, there may not be a reason to take that risk.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm just a little bit thankful that my friends told me to avoid the Johnson & Johnson one, because I originally was going to go for that and try to just get it done with, because the second dose falls closer to my midterms and stuff like that. And like my test, but I realized that it's like, it was pretty good because Johnson & Johnson has had a really shady track record. I know one of their past vaccines increased the chance of cancer like pretty significantly. And that was a thing that happened. I haven't really seen that type of stuff happening with Moderna and Pfizer. Pfizer does have the FDA approval, but Moderna does not, but it has the emergency activation clause from the FDA, which basically means you can get it. But like the best one to get right now is probably Pfizer or Moderna.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting, the AstraZeneca also is not available in the US currently, but it's been used widely in Europe. And it also has a blood clot problem, which is that it's actually, blood clots are more common than in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, though once again, quite rare. But yeah, so really, and AstraZeneca also, as a company, screwed up some other stuff with their vaccine rollout in terms of getting just the supplies ready. So really, so if anyone has got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, like there is not a need to worry. Like you should not be freaking out right now or anything. And same if you got the AstraZeneca vaccine, though that's unlikely since it's not available in America. But
actually, one of my friends is getting it from his family's like healthcare clinic.
AstraZeneca?
Yeah. I don't know why they have it, but they have it. I don't know. I'm not going to question it, but they do.
Well, that sounds interesting. But like, once again, that's still the protection that a vaccine can give you is still going to generally be better than the side effects. And also, this is why under a normal vaccine procedure, some of this would take longer, and this is why they continuously monitor stuff. So I think it's important to note that this is science working. They knew that there weren't any common side effects going into this, and now what they're discovering is there are some uncommon side effects, which that was always a risk, and now we're adapting to the risks as we find them out. So I just think it's important to put a positive note on sort of what we're seeing, so that people don't get too scared or negative.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's been quite an episode. It's been nice catching up with you guys, getting back into the season. It was just a slower episode, but we just wanted to really get into the groove.
Is this the start of season 3?
I guess it would be, because it doesn't really fit too much of season 2. We'll just call season 2 a shorter one.
Okay.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, it's been an honor, Mr. Moore. Thank you guys for listening in. I hope you enjoyed the day. If you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out to one of us. You always have our contact on Instagram, Snapchat, our numbers.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. We could always use those connections,
Yeah.
But yeah, have a great day, guys, and tune in for next episode.